You're listening to New England Real Estate Journal Radio with Rick Kaplan, New England's source for commercial real estate news. This is New England Real Estate Journal Radio on the Money Matters Radio Network and online at moneymattersboston.com.
Welcome to the New England Real Estate Journal Radio Show. I'm Rick Kaplan with my co-host Eric Wilson, and we have an unbelievable show for you today. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Rick. How are we?
See, it already started unbelievable. Eric's here, and he's got
You're
this
talking
big smile on his face.
It's Wednesday. It's a big day.
And our show today is brought to you by the New England Real Estate Journal, bringing together the commercial real estate industry for over 50 years. Find us at NEREJ.com. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor for the show, call 800-654-4993 or email us at radio@nerej.com. Again, that's 800-654-4993 or email radio@nerej.com. And on our next segment, we have a guest coming on that's from NextSun Energy. They're going to talk about solar. We have Jake Laskin is the president, and
Fantastic.
we'll be interviewing him. But before we get to that, Eric, why don't we talk a bit about the DONO project in North Hartford, Connecticut,
right?
Which is they're one of our major sponsors. They were supposed to be on the show today, but some big thing is happening in the Connecticut area, so they had to reschedule that. But the DONO project is the North Hartford area where they're trying to find developers to come in and redevelop the area, and it sounds like a real hot project for
anybody. Yeah, for investors, builders. You know, aren't they taking? They're looking for all types, right, to fill the area.
Yeah, they want to put in apartment complexes and condominium, retail, office, and I was surprised because in Hartford you have a lot of these big insurance companies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just Hartford Insurance. There's a lot of other insurance companies.
Right.
So there's a lot of job opportunities as well. So they need more living space.
Right.
You know, living,
of course. I mean, when they were building up as well, I mean, they're right between Boston and New York City, and it's another major city. The next major city between us, other than Providence, if you went 95, if you go I-84, you know.
But it's a great area for young people because it's affordable as well.
Affordable, a lot of great schooling around there too as well.
Yeah, so you know, that's a DONO project.
Yeah,
and if you have to,
we'll find out they'll be joining us in a couple of weeks here, right?
Yeah, well, they'll be on a couple of times in
the next couple of months and talk about how the project's going.
We have a new show that will be starting. It's actually going to be on the UR Business Network and on iTunes,
and hosted on our website.
And it's going to be the New York Real Estate Journal radio show.
Yeah, right. We're going to do
it's going to be mostly New York guests and New Jersey guests.
Yeah,
and from the commercial real estate industry. And that should be a pretty good show as well.
Of course, yeah.
It should be a great show.
It's got to be. I mean, it's a big, huge market.
It's
going
to be a whole lineup of guests that want to be on.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason we brought the show to life was because so many people called in. But I think we're going to cover the whole state, not just New York City and Manhattan. We'll also cover, upstate with Albany and Syracuse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it will be a podcast, so you can listen to it anywhere in the world.
Of course.
So.
And New York's a huge real estate market. I mean, it's enormous, and they're having a huge boom down there in Manhattan too.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to how the Boston market is, but on a larger scale.
Well, right,
it's a large scale in a smaller area, actually.
It is, but it's built a little bit higher.
Right.
They're more vertical in that smaller landmass, but
you have a lot of big players in.
It's financial capital of America, right?
Yeah.
Wherever the money is where most of the buildings are going to happen. And Boston's another big financial city. That's why they're doing very well too. Especially rebounding so fast with all the new construction and renovations.
And that is why that DONO project, that area being redeveloped, is perfect.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity.
It's in between both.
Right.
So I mean, you're not too far away from these two major cities. One that has unbelievable.
It's almost right in the middle, right? Isn't it? It's like 2 hours from us here in Boston, and about 2 hours to New York.
About 2 hours, I would say.
Some change.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity. That's why we were so excited when we first got to talk to them, and they were talking about coming on the radio.
It's a great opportunity for developers. It really is. So what else do we have on the plate?
We did a presentation with Susan Shelby of Rhino Public Relations, and we had Bill Johnson of Tarragon and Bill Mack of JLL Construction, Amora Camarada of Timberline, and we all did a presentation together yesterday for the Environmental Business Council on the use of LinkedIn and how to use it efficiently, how to network with it, and how to incorporate it in your overall marketing and branding strategy. That was really exciting. I got to talk to the USGBC Young Professionals Group about social media tips and tricks at, I believe it's the Alibi Bar or something like that. I can't remember the exact place, but that was also really cool. It's always good to see the next generation of professionals that will be in our industry, so I tend to like to go to those events as well. And that's pretty much all the events we went to.
Yeah, one of the other big things that's happening right now, as we're speaking on this pre-recorded show, is that Boston's mayor, Marty Walsh, is at the Fallon Company. They're breaking ground to build to suit office tower for law firm Goodwin Proctor at Fan Pier.
Okay.
So that's going to be a big
we
project.
had Joe Fallon on here talking about what he was doing there at Fan Pier.
Yeah, well, he was talking about, I think it was
across the street, right?
Yeah.
Remember he said he was thinking they were looking at the space across the street.
Yeah, so this is going to be another big project down at the Waterfront.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of stuff down there, Fan Pier and the Seaport.
And Marty Walsh this is probably, I think this must be his first groundbreaking for one of these big projects. Since he has taken office.
Right. It's only been 3 months since he's been in, so I would assume.
Has it been 3? Yeah.
Yeah, don't they go on January 1st after they're elected?
Well, good for Marty Walsh.
Yeah.
And the show is brought to you by the New England Real Estate Journal, bringing together the commercial real estate industry for over 50 years. Find us at NEREJ.com. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor for the show, call 800-654-4993 or email us at radio@nerej.com. Again, that's 800-654-4993 or email radio@nerej.com. And when we come back, we're going to be speaking with Jake Laskin of NextSun Energy, and we'll be right back on Money Matters Radio Network.
The next level in commercial real estate. This is New England Real Estate Radio on the Money Matters Radio Network and online at moneymattersboston.com. Rick Kaplan on the Money Matters Radio Network and online at moneymattersboston.com.
And we're back on the New England Real Estate Journal radio show. I'm Rick Kaplan with my co-host Eric Wilson. And our interview today is brought to you by Command Security Corporation. It's the nation's most trusted and experienced provider of affordable contract security services. Command Security Corporation offices nationwide and operations at numerous major international airports. They provide complete, customized, and cost-effective security solutions for industries, businesses, institutions, and organizations of all sizes. To find out more how Command Security Corporations can solve your security needs, contact John Dunleavy at 800-791-9102 or go to commandsecurity.com. That's John Dunleavy at 800-791-9102 or go to commandsecurity.com. And we have on the phone with us is Jake Laskin. He's the president of NextSun Energy. Good morning, Jake.
Good morning.
You want to tell us a little bit about what NextSun Energy is?
Yes, thank you for having me. NextSun Energy is a developer and general contractor building large-scale solar energy facilities for clients, municipalities, and large real estate developers across the Northeast. We develop, permit, and then finally construct some of the largest solar projects in the Northeast, including the two largest rooftop projects in Massachusetts.
And when you say that you guys construct these facilities, what does that mean? Is it like a solar farm, or is it just or like a solar roof?
Yeah, no. So we build solar projects both on ground mounts, landfills, and rooftop projects. your listeners are probably most interested in hearing more about our rooftop solar installations. Being in the real estate arena, they're typically ballasted roof mount projects that don't have to penetrate rubber roofs. Also, we can work on, all sorts of roof type systems, from ballasted EPDM to standing seam metal roofs as well.
Wow.
So when you say ballasted, now what does that really mean? For the layman, because I'm not clear. Because when you say it doesn't affect a rubber roof, does that have something to do with being ballasted?
Yeah. So you can think of our systems a lot like a paperweight, where our solar panels will be connected to a frame that has a tray at the bottom of the frame, and then we just put a typical paver on that tray, which weights the system down so it doesn't blow away, but at the same time doesn't affect the rubber membrane on the roof at all.
So you're really not bolting it down to the roof, is what you're saying?
Exactly. There's zero penetration of the roof membrane at all, and in fact the trays have a rubber subsurface on them, so there's no metal to rubber touching at all. So
is that in order to in case you have issues to fix the roof and things like that?
They're created with rubber blocks, so we don't affect the existing warranties,
mm-hmm.
And we can maintain that continuity of the building owner's warranty.
And you said you did two of the largest roof installations in Massachusetts?
Yeah, we have built a 2.6 megawatt solar project in Fall River in 2012, which at the time was the largest project. And just to give your listeners an idea of space, that was about 300,000 square feet of solar panels. And then last summer we completed a 3.3 megawatt solar facility that was about 480,000 square feet of solar panels. So.
And where was that one in? Was that also Fall River?
That was also in Massachusetts. It was on the 495 corridor.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's a lot of space.
So now, Jake, when you put in a 2.6 megawatt system, is that supposed to supply all the energy for that building, or does it also have the outside energy source?
So we have a number of different structures that we work under. We can either sell the power directly to a utility, to a town, to a school, or we can sell it directly to the building owner, which is just a function of how the project's set up.
So that comes to another question. So when you go to a site, you put together a deal. You have a few things that you have to put into consideration, and one is if you're going to supply the property owner with the energy, or you're going to supply the utility with the energy. Is that correct?
Yeah, typically we work with our large real estate developer clients, and they want to just stick to their business of leasing their rooftops just like they would lease the space within their building to their tenants. So that's typically how we structure our deals. It's just simpler for everybody to stick to their core business model. Sometimes we have had our clients request that they be able to buy the power, but the contracts are mandated to be at least 20 years. So the underlying credit of the host customer comes into play to finance the system. So it's important that that's either a credit-worthy entity or a public entity.
Oh, so when you put together these deals, they could have come with the interest of having the energy source for themselves, but then you could show them how it might be beneficial for them just to lease that space to a utility?
No. So I guess what I was saying was that typically we would just set up a roof lease. It would just be a straight real estate transaction
mm-hmm.
between us and the building owner, and we would simply lease the underlying roof surface, and it would just be a straight lease.
Wow.
So the benefits of having that on your building for the property owner, what are some of those benefits?
Well, sure. I mean, if you think about a normal rooftop, there's not much use for it. So when NextSun comes along and can put basically an annuity up there for 20 years, the building owner sees a lot of value in turning that, before useless space into a 20-year annuity. It's often an attractive proposition.
No, it sounds like a very attractive. So they're going to save quite a bit of money on their utility bills over the years of 20 years. I would say that's quite a bit of money.
Now, is 20 years the typical life expectancy of a solar roof, or is that just mean it needs to be maintained and you expect something bigger or something new to come along in 20 years?
Well, we operate in 5 states, so each state has a little bit different of a term. New Jersey is usually a 15-year term. Massachusetts is a 20-year term, and up in Vermont we typically do 25-year terms. So, it just tends to vary state by state, but the typical term I would say would be 20 years.
Now, in the past 10 years, and you've been in this industry for quite a while, in the past 10 years, how much of a change has come into the play of solar? I mean, it has to be major. Sure.
I mean, if you follow the semiconductor, the cell phone industries, solar is no different. We're certainly on a sharp curve, and the fact that the technology's come so far in the last 4 years, even, it's really promising. But the projects are financed up front. 100% of the system is paid for up front, and it's something that people don't typically realize. But when you pay for something 100% up front, like the solar system, the rest of that 20-year lifespan has already been financed. So it's really only maintaining and operating the system for that 20-year period that you have to pay for moving forward. So regardless of what technology leap happens in the future, if you fully finance the project up front, you still are getting that benefit for the 20 years.
Yeah, so over the 20 years, you're probably going to save quite a bit compared to what you're paying in the cost of the system. Or is it going to be very similar to what the cost of your utilities would normally be?
Yeah, so there's 2 main benefits. One is you're getting a lease payment from space that you weren't using at all before, so you're getting that steady income for 20 years. And then second, if the building owner or the tenant does decide to purchase some of the power or all of the power, they would be able to lock in their utility rate for the next 20 years. So you're getting a significant savings and 2 income streams from the project.
Yeah, it seems like a no-brainer.
Right. So So what are you? What is the utility benefit from buying back that power?
Well, the utility sees ancillary benefits from transmission and distribution facilities that they don't have to upgrade or build, and those are the main benefits from the utilities perspective. But we often work with some utilities in some states that are willing to cooperate, but often it's typically private or public municipalities and so forth that want to participate in these solar projects.
Now, I know you said you cover the Northeast now. You said New Jersey, does that go all the way up to Maine?
Maine doesn't have such an active solar market, although they are an up-and-comer. But New Jersey, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, and we're going down south as far as Georgia as well.
Oh, wow. And where do you see the most demand right now at this stage?
We're based in Boston, so most of our work is within Massachusetts. We also operate in Rhode Island. We're about to start construction on a project down there, and Vermont's a very active market for us as well.
Nice.
So what is necessary for someone to be able to have this solar system put onto their property?
So we focus on large C&I, commercial and industrial clients, and we need a minimum of about 40,000 square feet of unobstructed roof space, or about 2.5 acres on the ground. That's kind of our threshold, and then the upper limit goes as far as the land constraint or the actual roof space that's available.
We're taking a break and coming back?
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break, Jake. And when we come back, I want to talk a little more about the financing of these projects and how do you measure what size project they need or in the sunlight that they would need as well. Okay?
That sounds great.
Okay, we're going to go to a break. And our interview is brought to you by Command Security Corporation. Is the nation's most trusted and experienced provider of affordable contract security services. Command Security Corporation offices nationwide and operations at numerous major international airports. They provide complete, customized, and cost-effective security solutions for industries, businesses, institutions, and organizations of all sizes. To find out more how Command Security Corporation can solve your security needs, contact John Dunleavy at 800-791-9102 or go to commandsecurity.com. That's John Dunleavy at 800-791-9102 or go to commandsecurity.com, and we'll be right back on Money Matters Radio Network.
Rick Kaplan and Eric Wilson, right here on the Money Matters Radio Network and online at moneymattersboston.com.
And we're back on New England Real Estate Journal Radio. I'm Rick Kaplan with my co-host Eric Wilson. And the next segment of our interview is brought to you by New England Restaurant Brokers, recognized leader in the sale of food and liquor businesses for over 30 years. New England Restaurant Brokers' team of restaurant specialists have sold hundreds of food and liquor businesses. If you're looking to buy, sell, or develop a food or liquor business, call New England Restaurant Brokers at 617-721-9655 or go to nerestaurantbrokers.com. Again, that's New England Restaurant Brokers at 617-721-9655 or email nerb@comcast.net. That's nerb@comcast.net. And we have on the phone with us Jake Laskin of NextSun Energy, and we've been talking a little bit about projects that solar projects that have been going on around the state, New England, I guess.
Yeah, well, Northeast. Before we went to the break, you had mentioned about I understand the roof has the weighted system, and you also do ground mounts. So I was wondering, what's the difference with that? What's the difference with putting it on the ground as opposed to the roof?
It's typically just a function of what the landowner has for available or usable space to lease us. We've kind of done all three of the big categories as far as I see it. That'd be landfill or brownfield systems, large rooftop systems on either EPDM or metal, standing seam, whatever the roof membrane is, and then also just your typical ground-mounted system as well. It's whatever's available, we can usually make it work.
Do you have to do any digging or anything? Do you have to in order to keep it to the ground, or is it also like the weighted system as well?
No, when we do ground-mounted systems, depending on the subsurface condition, we'll usually use a pile-driven. Basically looks like an I-beam that just gets driven directly into the ground, so there's no concrete footings or piers as most general construction is usually known.
Okay.
Jake, you also mentioned landfill. Is that a new thing that's going on, landfills, that you're using that space for solar?
Yeah, it's a great way to be able to turn a non-producing site into a useful space. We've had many successful projects with either municipalities or private-owned landfills that want to lease their space out to us to put the solar on top of.
No, well, because that sounds like a great idea, because it's property that you really can't use for. How long do they say before everything decomposes in a landfill? It's probably like 100, 200 years, something like that. So
if there's styrofoam,
right.
It could be longer.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's a great land use principle to take a unproductive piece of land like a landfill or a brownfield that can't be used for really anything else, and instead of putting a mall or a golf course on it, turn it into a clean energy facility.
Right, and now that clean energy facility, is that ground mount, is that rooftop, or is it a combination? I mean, where do you put the solar system in the landfill.
Yeah, so that would be the same non-penetrating ballasted ground-mounted system. So that would sit right on top of the flat space on the landfill cap itself.
Nice. I mean, that seems like another no-brainer.
Yeah. So you had a whole list of municipalities that you have had worked for, have done work for. Is that they're trying to sort of take on their own solar power in the cities and towns now?
Yes, we've focused our work with municipalities in Massachusetts as well as other states, and really have done a lot with school boards where we're powering middle, high schools, lower grade schools, and even private schools. So we've focused on municipal entities as well. There's several towns and cities that we've done power purchase agreements with where they just buy all the power from the system, and they're good candidates because we know they'll be around in 20 years, and they want to be able to budget their power needs for the next 20 years. So it's a win-win for both of us.
But this is also a large cost savings, I would think, for the municipalities. That's
correct. I mean, the most recent project we built for a municipality, we were able to save them $3.2 million over 20 years.
All right, Jake. That means all our tax dollars are going to start dropping because of your company, right? They don't have to pay all the utilities. Yeah, well, I mean, that's one of the things that I was thinking when we were first talking, because if you're a property owner and you're selling back some of the utility or the power to these utilities, at some point, wouldn't they have to drop the cost of the electricity they're selling, the power they're selling, because their build out is less?
Yeah, I mean, even with all the solar that's going in, and just in the first quarter of this year, every new capacity of electrical generation that was installed in the U.S. was solar power. That being said, we're still a drop in the bucket compared to traditional generation. We're still under 1%, so it's still a drop in the bucket.
So at what point do we say, well, solar is the way to go? We got to give up these big plants that are producing this energy.
To fossil fuel?
Yeah.
I'd say 10 years ago.
Yeah, right? I agree. I'm with Jake. I think that's one of those things that we hear about in the White House. They still talk about it all the time.
That's right. And we just got the White House to put solar panels back on it since the 70s. So
yeah, right.
It's definitely an uphill fight.
So, yeah, but I mean, you're in it for the long haul, I assume, at least the next 20 years, right?
Yeah, no, that's correct. I mean, we personally, the company owns projects. We specialize in, like I said, developing, building, owning, and operating these projects. So we definitely look at it with a long-term focus as an actual asset owner ourselves.
Now, Jake, when you go out to these school buildings or, like you said, C&I buildings, and you have to look at this space, is the system is the system uniform across every building as long as the space is there for it, or do you have to, does it have different designs? Does it look different compared to the roof?
Every system is self-tailored to the individual building, land, or whatever space we have. They're all individually designed. NextSun does have engineers on staff, and every system, as much as we would like to have a template, they all have their individual needs.
Right.
So you can't do this on every property, right? I mean, it's you have to have the proper sunlight, right?
Yes, I mean, we need an unobstructed southern exposure. And our company specifically focuses on large-scale projects of about 40,000 square feet or above on the roof and about 2.5 acres or more on the ground. That's just the niche that we've carved out.
2.5 acres on the ground?
That's correct, yeah.
Wow.
So very large-scale projects.
Yeah, that's really large.
So the reason for that is why you need that much space?
It comes back to our financing capability and the credit facilities that we've set up, as well as just kind of the niche that we've carved out. I mean, the smallest project we've ever built was about 5 acres. So.
Oh wow! So another question I had. This is relaying back. You had said like your largest rooftop installation was 3.34 megawatts.
That's correct.
And what does that mean? It generates 3.34 megawatts. Is that per month? Is that per quarter? Per year?
So that's the capacity of the system itself. So that's a kilowatt capacity measure, and each kilowatt produces, or let's say, give you round numbers. So 1 megawatt will produce roughly 1.2 million kilowatt hours per year.
Oh, okay. Wow, so you were right. These are huge scale projects.
Yeah, so I mean, so most of the time that even if someone does have this project put in their property, most of the time they end up selling some of that electricity back to the utility because it produces too much for them for themselves, I would think.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, usually our clients look to NextSun to come in with a fully baked project where they're just leasing us the roof because they're multi-million-dollar projects that require pretty sophisticated financing mechanisms, including tax credits, grants, rebates, etc. So typically we would come in and take care of all of that for the client.
So let me get this straight. So maybe I was slightly confused earlier. So you will lease the space from the building owner yourself, and then
That's correct.
And then do you get the power, and then do you sell it to the utilities, or do you sell it back to the owner?
Right. So NextSun would come in and form a real estate relationship with the building owner, be it on their rooftop, on the ground, whatever space they have available, and then we would provide a turnkey system from there, where we would go out, negotiate the power contracts either with the building owner, with the tenant, with the town, with the utility, whatever the off-taker for the power ends up being. And then we would also build the system from there.
So you're almost like a tenant of his building, making the solar energy as your product that you sell back to anybody in the town or even the building itself?
That's correct. We would become another tenant of the building, but instead of being inside taking up their space, we'd be up on the roof.
And I mean, are you the first person to do this? Because I mean, that seems.
I can't see why everyone wouldn't be doing it.
Yes, is this a business model that is new to the industry? Something like where you'll lease out space as a solar company, as basically almost a solar financier, where you're basically taking energy and reselling it to around the building.
There's certainly other companies that do what we do. We are a full-service turnkey provider of these systems, bringing both construction knowledge of the utility industry that dates back to the 80s, as well as the financing to actually take these multi-million-dollar projects from inception to completion.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's listening, I mean, and they have that kind of a property that they can put something like, it's almost like you're leasing farmland from them because you're going to put a solar farm up there on their property, pretty much, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a win-win. That's dead space to them right now.
Now, when you do these projects, do you like to do it on existing buildings or buildings that are being constructed now?
So we come in with, like I said, with a very long-term focus. So for us, coming in at the planning stages is not an issue. It actually is beneficial to the building owner and for us, so we can collaborate on the design, on the structural and everything else that we can have input in from the beginning. But that being said, we're used to coming into these projects on the back end and adapting to the building owner's roof or land that's already existing. Right.
So in a perfect world, you'd like to be at the beginning, but obviously Boston being as old as it is, just New England being as old as it is, it's hard to find too many of those new buildings going up.
That's correct. Yeah. No, we're usually coming in after the fact.
So most of these projects are not put together in the middle of the city because there's just not enough land for you to do something like that.
They'd all have to be roof, I would assume, in the cities.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we haven't built anything within downtown Boston. Our size requirements really take us out into the distribution centers and to other large kind
industrial parks, I would assume, right? That must be that in campuses.
That's correct. Yeah, school campuses are always good. We can do parking structures as well, where we can take parking lot space and actually provide covered parking to our landlords, and put our solar panels up on what look like parking canopies.
That's very smart too. That's more space that's created.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of great things that they can do with all this. It sounds like there's a lot of great things. I'm just shocked that there's more people that aren't looking into this.
So the reason you have, besides space limited roofs in the city, is it also have to do with buildings that are next to it that could be blocking out that southern sun that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah. So, like I said, we certainly need. I mean, we're in the business of capturing sunlight, so we certainly need an unobstructed view to the south. And that's a prerequisite of the project.
Right, and I'm sure that when they were building the city back in the late 18th century, they weren't thinking about southern sun, and this is how it's going to affect them, 200 years later.
That's right, and it's interesting now. A lot of states like Colorado and New York are actually passing. A lot of cities are passing ordinances that grant basically an easement. They call them sunlight easements. So you're starting to see that pop up more and more.
Oh, it's all. I mean, we could probably talk a little more about this, but we have to. We only have an hour show. But and I wanted to get more into the financing, but I think he answered a lot of the questions when how you lease the properties and how it works. But maybe another time when we have another show with about solar. Yeah,
definitely. We'd love you to come back on and talk more about this.
And I'd be happy to, and we can certainly find, if anyone has questions for us out there, we can be reached through our website at NextSunEnergy.com, or certainly contact us personally. So.
Geez, you beat me too.
Yeah, he was just about to ask you, how does someone contact you to find out more about this and to see if there's a way for them to work with you guys?
Yeah, we have a submission form directly on our website at NextSunEnergy.com, or we can be reached at 617-942-2733.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jake. We learned a lot about the solar industry. As you can tell, we were flabbergasted by all the wonderful things that you guys are doing in the industry right now.
I appreciate it, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jake. And our interview is brought to you by New England Restaurant Brokers, recognized leader in the sale of food and liquor businesses for over 30 years. New England Restaurant Brokers' team of restaurant specialists have sold hundreds of food and liquor businesses. If you're looking to buy, sell, or develop a food or liquor business, call New England Restaurant Brokers at 617-721-9655 or go to NEREJRadio.com. Again, that's New England Restaurant Brokers at 617-721-9655 or email NERB@Comcast.net. That's NERB@Comcast.net. And we'll be right back on Money Matters Radio Network.
Rick Kaplan is right here on the Money Matters Radio Network.
And we're back on New England Real Estate Journal Radio. I'm Rick Kaplan with my co-host Eric Wilson. And our next segment of the show is brought to you by the NEBFM 2014. Do you sell to facility managers, building owners, or property managers? See thousands of these decision makers at Northeast Building and Facilities Management Show, June 18th and 19th at the Boston Convention Center. Go to proexpos.com. That's proexpos.com. And I think we might even be at that show.
We will be at that show. We'll definitely have a booth at that show. There's a couple of shows that are coming up.
We'll have a booth. I'm thinking maybe we'll have our radio show at this.
Have you talked to him? That's a good idea.
I haven't talked to him, but I just thought about it.
Oh, hey. Hey, this show spurred a great thought from you, huh? Yeah. Fantastic. So what an interview, huh?
The interview we just had with Jake Laskin of NextSun Energy.
Yeah.
Really, blew both of us away.
It did. Well, the mathematics behind it. It doesn't make sense.
It's just incredible that they take all the space that's unused and put in these solar panels, and actually lease the space and put in the solar
Right.
So it doesn't even cost you anything. All you're doing is you're making your rent. Like
you're renting out space.
Right, like you rented out additional parts of the building, to another tenant.
That's what I mean. You give a new tenant, basically.
So it was like dead space that now you're making money with.
Right.
And they're supplying this energy.
And if you want, you can buy the energy back from them.
Energy back. I mean, that's just incredible.
I know. I couldn't believe that. But I can understand why. We've had a few solar companies on the show, and we're always blown away. Going, how does everybody not getting what was it? Russ Kozalt, who came in, who was doing solar roofs on the residential side. How are people not putting this on their houses as long as you have the sunlight? And the same with the building is. I mean, that's a no-brainer for me. If you own a building, that's a job. I mean,
I would think every property owner, commercial property owner that has that much square footage
inside an industrial park.
I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Why they wouldn't be calling to put that in play? I have no idea.
I don't either. It's just the mathematics of it. Like you have an extra tenant now. So if you had 4 office spaces, you now have 5.
And it's actually a better tenant than if you had someone renting a part of a warehouse or an office.
Well, because you eliminate people.
Yeah, and it's a 20-year.
Yeah, right. It's a 20-year lease. Yeah, exactly.
Least.
It's that's.
And you don't have to worry about them trashing the place.
No, because it has no effect on the roof. They don't even connect to it. Yeah, it was.
It's incredible.
It is. I'm shocked but I can see why everyone's moving toward this new. Solar's taking off, and he was saying that this area, even all the way down to Georgia up to Vermont, that the solar push is bigger, and he's probably busy for the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, I mean, sure. There's got to be a lot of these projects that are available that they probably have a waiting list.
Right. I'm sure their next question is going to be, how do they get into cities? As he was saying, he does all these large-scale projects. I know that they do green roofs because we talked about that last week when we were, or was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks. 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, we were talking about the, when we had Russell in, when he was talking about green roofs.
John Cifalillo from Greenscape.
Right.
Talking about
John
that.
Cifalillo, right, exactly, was talking about the green roofs and things like that.
I mean, if we start putting and I don't understand why all of these things haven't just been put into play already.
Well, I'm sure there's there's got to be people on the other side, right, of the fence that are saying, no, this isn't what's working.
Well, yeah, it's all the utility companies that have all these big infrastructure put together. They're saying, oh, no, we can't do that.
It's funny. It's really funny. And this is a big thing when it comes to technology and in innovation. We get a lot of these new companies that come up with new products or new software. I remember we had that property management software company that came on.
And Visual, yeah.
And Visual, and they're talking, and we're sitting back, we get off the interview, and we're going, well, how is everybody not using this? But it's much like when you see on anything, when the cell phone came in and people were like, oh, no one needs that, no one's going to use that, and people are saying, no, in 10 years, everyone's going to have one.
That's right.
I think solar's kind of that next thing. Right now, not every roof has one, but when people start to see the actual returns, because like he was saying, this is an upfront system that you're paying for.
Right.
So you have to almost measure it out 20 years, and then you can kind of see where you've got your savings. I'm sure it's shorter than that for your ROI, but I would assume in the next 5-10 years when people start coming back going, oh, yeah, I'm leasing this roof out.
Property values going sky high.
Right, because you have one on there.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, it has a lot of purposes.
Right.
You can fill up space that you're not making any kind of revenue on.
Right.
Your tax rate, you might get a tax break or something. Well, actually, you probably don't, but the person leasing must get that. You have energy that it's being supplied from it. So I mean, there's and boost your
property value.
Property,
right?
The cost. What am I thinking? The word, but what your property value is going to be increased from it. So I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why people should put this in, and and that's why originally I asked him, in 10 years, how did you see things change in the solar industry? But he really didn't even have to answer that because I can see just by talking about what he's doing now.
Right.
I mean, 10 years ago, people wouldn't even considered.
You can drive down Route 3 on your way to Boston and see that. What was the young woman that came on and joined us? Who was the designer of that? Remember, back in was it December or November? You're usually good at this. You remember all the guests. This is why I'm asking you. But it was.
I can't think of her name, but
was it Fisher? I thought it was Fisher.
No,
or something.
some flower or something like that.
Oh, right. Because
name of the company.
Right, and they did. What was the? She put it out to her company, and they all picked the name that they wanted to use, and wasn't it a choice by maybe it was even by children or something? Either way, but she did the large array, and she designed that solar field that you drive by. Where the old tanks were.
Right.
The
she also
tanks.
converted her gas engine to a biodiesel.
Yeah, that's right. To vegetable oil, right?
Right. Engine. Yeah. So.
So we've had, as you can tell, we've just rattled off the last. We've had 4. Energy efficient people on in the last 6 months because
and I can see it getting more and more popular.
And more popular.
Because it's making more and more sense.
And dollars.
Yeah.
Oh, right. A little bang the table for that one. Touche, Eric. Put one in your corner. Yeah, right. So I mean, I'm sure in the future we'll have more on, and hopefully we can have. Maybe we could put a panel together with our 3 guests who have been on before and talk about what maybe they see. For the future of solar, and is it going to get smaller? Is it going to be on, windows? Is there going to be window panes now that have like a screen that you lay over that has solar power?
I mean, it's just going to keep getting better and better.
Much like the phone industry, I would assume.
Yeah,
that's where they're going to go.
It's also, go back 10 years ago.
Right.
They couldn't install solar panels where they're installing them today.
Right.
Because they couldn't produce enough sunlight or
things
like that.
They were big and blocky because of the extraction systems they were using. But, we have to thank those people that got the scientists who put us on the quantum level, because since then we've constantly made things smaller and smaller and more efficient.
Yeah, no, it's great. And so when they start talking about, we have to figure out a way to cut down, usage of electricity and cut down on
American consumption.
Fuels, here we go.
Yeah, it is our first step.
This is something that you could have put in place 10 years ago, like Jake was saying.
Yeah.
And it's a slow process.
Everything's a slow process. We're people, In the end of the day, people are still making decisions.
It's also the money.
True, dollars. But people don't like change to begin with. And when you bring new things in, unless you can show it right away, and we're very, what do they call that?
It's not the
immediate gratification.
Yeah, but it's not the average Joe. He doesn't care where his electricity is coming from.
Right.
It's the big utilities. Mm-hmm. They are making all this big money. They don't want to give it up.
Of course, I mean exactly. But that's changed. But because again, they're not seeing the immediate gratification of a return on investment. But again, obviously. We have all these people on our show. They're all in business. I'm assuming there's enough people at the moment that are allowing them to continue this push.
Oh, I'm sure.
And get this momentum going.
Well, we're going to have to go to
It was a great show.
I think it was very informative. Very informative. And our segment is brought to you by NEBFM 2014. Do you sell to facility managers? Excuse me. Building owners or property managers. See thousands of these decision makers at the Northeast Buildings and Facility Management Show, June 18th and 19th at Boston Convention Center. Go to proexpos.com. That's proexpos.com. And we'll be right back on Money Matters Radio Network.
It's New England Real Estate Journal Radio on the Money Matters Radio Network and online at moneymattersboston.com.
And we're back on New England Real Estate Journal Radio. I'm Rick Kaplan with my co-host Eric Wilson, and we're coming to a close of a fantastic show. Lots of information today. And the show is brought to you by the New England Real Estate Journal, bringing together the commercial real estate industry for over 50 years. Find us at NEREJ.com. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor for the show, call 800-654-4993 or email us at radio@nerej.com. That's 800-654-4993 or email radio@nerej.com.
Did you almost mess up our own phone number?
I was going to screw that up.
I thought you were going to mess our own phone number up again. We got a big week. We got a big month coming up. We have events galore, and I'm hoping to see all of our listeners out at these events coming up.
Yeah, well, we'll tell you about our March 20th event next week because you're not going to get there after you hear this show.
Our event took place already. For the following week, though, March 27th, you can join us if you're a part of IFMA. We're going to do a webinar series with myself talking about Twitter for Business. That's an hour long on March 27th. You can register at ifma.org or ifmaboston.org, sorry. We have March 27th as well, Canon Design, celebrating 30 years of projects. They're having a little celebratory for clients in their company. You and I will be in attendance to that. That's going to be really exciting. Thanks to Susan Shelby for getting us in there. March 27th is the Big Non-Gala. For those who work with Building Impact, they're putting on their charity event to kind of see what you can do with inside your building to get all the offices involved. That's going to be really cool. April 1st and 2nd, we have the MedEd Facility Show at the World Trade Center. So if you're in the industry on used service or you develop medical or educational facilities, this is definitely the show you want to get to. April 5th is the running for Row. Roseanne Sedoya will be having a show. Service Master by Gilmore is putting on a networking event, or not a networking event, an event. I'm sure you can network, but it's basically a charitable event, and for Roseanne Sedoya, so that's really exciting. And we both of us again will be at the attendance in that, and then we have our conference,
and we have the Help Conference, April 7th and 8th at the Seaport Hotel, Waterfront Hotel. And we're going to be there doing our show as well. Like we did last year. That's why I said it was your conference, because we do the radio show there, which is exciting. That's a great show. And actually, Jim O'Connell from the Help Conference, he'll also be on the show right before that.
Right.
To tell a little more about what goes on. Yep. If you haven't been to one, it's an unbelievable show to go to.
It is.
A lot of fun, a lot of information.
Yeah, and also next week we'll have guests from the MedEd Facility Show, right? And we'll be talking with Jim Feeney, who's talking about what his product is for the industry. And I believe MedEd's going to actually have someone on as well to talk about the overall of the show.
Right.
So exciting for that as well. Don't forget NEBFM. Is it June 18th and 19th?
Yeah.
Coming up. That's a little bit further out, but make sure you register for that. And we'll see you guys all there.
Yeah, well, I'd like to thank Jake Laskin from NextSun Energy for coming on for the interview. Mm-hmm. He actually came on short notice. Because,
last minute, because DONO.
DONO, North Hartford, Connecticut, had a reschedule because they have big things going on there.
Yeah.
I also like to thank the New England Real Estate Journal, of course, Command Security Corporation, and also New England Restaurant Brokers. And
NEBFM 14.
NEBFM 2014.
Nice.
And I think this deal is done.